Hello everyone and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Hammond and we're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And today on the program, Donald Trump takes on New York City, ICE gets a close-up, and calls of racism and xenophobia grow louder across the United States. These and other stories are on tap, but let's start with the headlines. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian comes under fire after voicing support for renewed talks with the United States. Critics are accusing him of being too soft in the wake of last month's attacks on the country. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says he will begin a 6-day visit to China this Saturday as Canberra hails the return of free-flowing trade following the resolution of a prolonged tariff dispute last year. Russia's main independent voting observer Golos, which monitored the country's increasingly tightly controlled elections for 25 years, announces its closure 2 months after its co-chair is jailed. India's southern state of Kerala sues a Swiss-based Mediterranean shipping company seeking $1.1 billion in compensation after one of its container vessels sank and leaked fuel into the Arabian Sea back in May. In South Sudan's President Salva Kiir fires the East African country's army chief after 7 months in the post and names a replacement without providing a reason for the dismissal. We begin in the United States, where President Donald Trump has escalated his attacks on Zohran Mamdani, New York City's Democratic mayoral nominee. In comments to reporters on Monday, Trump accused Mamdani of holding anti-Jewish views and criticized his pledge to enforce the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu should he visit New York City. The president called Mamdani a communist and warned he would face big problems if he did not behave.
A socialist, he's a communist, and he said some really bad things about Jewish people, and he said some really bad things about a lot of people, and I think he's going through a little bit of a honeymoon right now, but he might make it. But, you know, it all comes through the White House. He needs the money through the White House. He needs a lot. He's going to behave. He'll behave. He better behave, otherwise he's going to have big problems.
The remarks came shortly before his private White House dinner with Prime Minister Netanyahu on Monday. And this controversy follows renewed attention on a clip from December of last year where Mamdani said, if elected, he would direct New York City authorities to arrest the Israeli leader.
As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Now, to be clear, the United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court and generally doesn't recognize its authority. Responding to Mamdani's threat, Netanyahu reportedly said on Monday he was not concerned about it, prompting President Trump to cut in and say he would get him out. A report suggests that Netanyahu may visit New York before next year if he decides to address the UN General Assembly's annual high-level meeting of world leaders in September.
I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to come there with President Trump and we'll see. There's enough craziness in the world, but I guess it never ends. This is appalling. And it's silly in many ways because it's just not serious.
33-year-old Mamdani, a state assemblyman, defeated former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. And if elected in November, he would be NYC's first Muslim and Indian American mayor. Mamdani has faced repeated criticism from Donald Trump, and the president has threatened to arrest Mamdani and suggested he may take federal control of the city and question Mamdani's citizenship status.
New York, they're trying to elect a communist, Zohran Mamdani, the guy who wants to defund the police, take over the stores and run the stores and have the people hand out goods. And when everything falls apart, it always does. It always works that way. It never has worked any other way. Anarchy and dictatorships prevail. This guy is a communist at the highest level, and he wants to destroy New York. I love New York, and we're not going to let him do that.
Now, the president has also falsely suggested that Mamdani, a naturalized American citizen, may be here illegally. In responding to those comments, Mamdani rejected the label of communist and said the president was trying to distract from his political agenda.
Donald Trump said that I should be arrested. He said that I should be deported. He said that I should be denaturalized. And he said those things about me, someone who stands to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, someone who would also be the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in this city's history. And more so because he wants to distract from what I fight for. I fight for working people. I fight for the very people that have been priced out of this city. And I fight for the same people that he said he was fighting for.
So with President Trump vowing to save New York City by exercising federal oversight and Mamdani preparing for a November run against Mayor Eric Adams, the city's mayoral race has transformed into a national battleground over identity, policy, and of course, power. And now turning to President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, a deportation flight from Indiana has gone viral after the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office, or ICE, posted an up-close and personal video of the removal operation on social media. The footage, which was shared on both Instagram and X, shows shackled detainees being escorted out of vehicles by ICE officers and boarding a plane at the Gary Chicago International Airport. Have you ever seen a deportation flight up close and personal? The agency wrote in its caption. This one lifted off from Gary, Indiana, carrying dozens of aliens with one-way tickets out of the United States. Then the video opens with a group of detained individuals handcuffed and in leg restraints walking towards the plane under the close watch of ICE officials. They're seen quietly following instructions one by one, climbing the stairs and entering the aircraft. And the camera later shows the interior of the plane, rows of deportees seated, flanked by uniformed ICE personnel. An officer featured in the video then explains that these kinds of deportation flights are happening all across the country, pointing to the agency's continued enforcement under President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. Since the video was posted online, reactions have been sharply divided. While many users praised ICE and supported the agency's actions, others called the video disturbing and inhumane. However, the video comes as President Donald Trump continues his push for aggressive immigration enforcement. In fact, he's repeatedly blamed the former Biden administration for what he calls a broken border, accusing it of allowing thousands of undocumented immigrants to cross into the United States.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release.
Back in May, ICE conducted 190 deportation flights, which is the highest number since September of 2021, according to the New York Times. Tom Homan, Donald Trump's administration's border czar, even declared that ICE would flood the zone in sanctuary cities to meet a goal of at least 7,000 detentions every single day.
And for those that say 3,000 a day is too much, I want to remind them, do the math. We'd have to arrest 7,000 every single day for the remainder of this administration just to catch the ones Biden released the nation, right? So we're going to increase community operation, we're going to increase worksite enforcement operation. We're going to get the bad guys. So if they don't want to help, get out of the way. We're coming to do it.
Data from the Department of Homeland Security shows that the U.S. has deported over 207,000 people as of mid-2025. And as immigration enforcement ramps up, these videos have become a flashpoint in the ongoing debate. For some, it showcases law and order, but for others, it raises troubling questions. And as much more flights such as these take off, the immigration crackdown conversation is only growing louder. And now shifting to the Middle East, where the Houthis are intensifying their attacks on ships passing through the vital Red Sea region. Houthi rebels have allegedly targeted a second commercial vessel just 50 nautical miles west of Yemen's Hodeidah port, marking a sharp escalation in attacks on global shipping in just 24 hours. On Monday, the Liberian-flagged Eternity Sea, a Greek-managed bulk carrier, came under heavy fire off the coast of Yemen while sailing north toward the Suez Canal. Now, according to reports, the ship, which is still allegedly under continuous attack, was hit with rocket-propelled grenades, sea drones, and small boats. 2 crew members have died, while 2 other crew members have been reportedly injured. Reports further suggest that the vessel's bridge was hit while its communications were disrupted. There were 21 Filipino members allegedly on board, 1 Russian and 3 security personnel, but no one has claimed responsibility for the attack as of now. The latest incident comes just after a separate, highly coordinated attack on Sunday targeting another Greek-operated Liberian flag bulk carrier, which was reportedly carrying iron and fertilizer from China to Turkey. A Houthi military spokesperson claimed responsibility for that attack, saying the group targeted the ship because it belonged to a company that violated the blockade by entering ports in quote-unquote occupied Palestine.
The Navy Force, Missile Force, and Air Force of the Yemeni Houthi armed forces targeted the ship Magic Seas, which belongs to a company that violated the blockade by entering ports in occupied Palestine. The outcomes of the operation were as follows. The ship was directly hit, causing water to leak into it, and it is now at risk of sinking. Our forces allowed the ship's crew to depart safely.
The vessel was struck by multiple weapons, forcing the crew of 22 to abandon ship before they were later rescued by another vessel operated by Abu Dhabi port. The UAE confirmed all crew members were safely evacuated from the ship after a distress call.
Safine Prism vessel, operated by Ad Ports Group, responded to a distress call from a commercial ship, Magic Seas, after it came under attack in the Red Sea. The attack caused damage to the vessel's structure, forcing its crew to abandon ship under difficult maritime conditions.
The attack, the first Houthi strike on commercial shipping along this vital maritime route in months, was part of a broader campaign the group says is in response to the ongoing war in Gaza. Now, since October of 2023, the Iran-backed group has launched over 100 attacks on commercial and military shipping through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, a strategic corridor that normally handles over $1 trillion in trade each year.
Our operations will continue to target the depths of the Israeli entity in occupied Palestine, disrupt Israeli navigation in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, and paralyze the port of Al-Rashrash until the aggression against Gaza ends and the siege on it is lifted.
Now, in response to Sunday's attack, Israel said it conducted airstrikes on several Houthi-controlled ports as well as on a power plant that it believed was being used to transfer weapons from Iran for attacks on Israel and its allies. Israel also claimed to have targeted the Galaxy Leader, a ship seized by the Houthis in November of 2023, which they say is being used to monitor traffic in the Red Sea. These developments have raised concerns of a renewed wave of attacks in the Red Sea and the possibility of Western military intervention if maritime security continues to deteriorate. So with 2 ships targeted in just 24 hours, the Red Sea is once again at the center of a growing maritime security crisis. And as investigations continue, questions are mounting over how far this escalation could go and what it means for global shipping in the days ahead. And back in the United States, a video capturing a confrontation by an American man has gone viral, sparking widespread outrage on social media. The clip shows a white American aggressively confronting a man of Indian origin in a parking lot, demanding to know why he is in his country and insisting that Indians are flooding white nations. Now, despite the unprovoked attack, the victim remains calm and dignified, choosing not to escalate the situation. The video has, in fact, triggered a wave of condemnation online, with users highlighting a surge in xenophobia. More on this troubling incident in our next report.
A disturbing video is doing rounds on social media, one that exposes the ugly face of racism in modern-day America. Shared by the X account Abrahamic Lincoln, the video shows an Indian-origin man being randomly confronted by a white American who launches into a wild xenophobic rant, all while filming himself.
Why are you in my country? Why are you here? Yeah, why are you in America? I don't like you guys here. There's too many of you guys here.
Now the Indian man, caught off guard, doesn't flinch. Instead, he simply responds with a calm, "Oh, is it?" and walks away with a composed, "All right." The incident appears to have taken place in a parking lot. No provocation, no argument, just pure racism on display. But the internet was not silent. The video captioned, "White guy confronts a random Indian man for no reason. What a racist piece of trash," has now gone viral, clocking over 1 million views. Social media erupted in support of the Indian man and condemnation of the racist outburst. White guy randomly confronting a peaceful Indian man. For what? His race, his existence. Disgusting, said one user. Good that the Indian ignored this so-called patriotic white immigrant. Then another user commented, "Tell me how to beg for views without begging, just drag India." But one comment cut deep. It said, "You need to know your background, English, or white people are not from America." Another said, "You probably don't like them because they make more money than you do." Many even pointed out the irony that white Americans themselves are descendants of immigrants. Another comment said, "If all migrants leave America today, the country wouldn't even exist anymore, and land goes back to native people." Despite being one of the most successful ethnic communities in the United States, Indian Americans often find themselves to be the target of such hateful behavior. With over 5.2 million people of Indian origin in the United States, they are among the most educated, highest earning and law-abiding groups. Yet, racism does not discriminate. It finds its target. Shockingly, while many denounced the American man's behavior, some supported him online. "Couldn't agree more," wrote one troll. "Make them uncomfortable whenever you see them," said another. But the overwhelming sentiment was loud and clear. This was hate, pure and simple. A study has revealed half of Asian Americans in the United States faced hate in 2024. These range from school bullying to violence. Among the hardest hit were South Asians, including brown-skinned Indians. Sadly, in what's often described as Trump's America, scenes like this are becoming far too common. The message from this viral clip: brown skin still makes you a target. Even when you say nothing, do nothing, and mean no harm, your presence alone is enough to trigger hate. And that's the real tragedy.
And finally, forget the catwalks of Paris and Milan. Fashion's newest runway is apparently the chaotic, honking streets of India. Louis Vuitton has turned India's humble autorickshaw into a handbag, and it probably costs more than the vehicle itself. But while global fashion houses have been cashing in on Indian craftsmanship, guess who's missing from the credits? You guessed it, India. Our final report explores how couture loves India's culture, just not enough to say it out loud.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up those seatbelts. Or should we say, strap in your overpriced handbags. Because fashion's latest muse isn't a Parisian cafe or a Milanese alley. It's India's ever-dependable, ever-noisy, and now couture-approved autorickshaw. Louis Vuitton has officially turned the humble autorickshaw into a luxury handbag. This three-wheeled wonder made its designer debut at Louis Vuitton's men's Spring-Summer 2026 show. Under the starry-eyed vision of Pharrell Williams, decked in the brand's signature monogram and finished with camel-hued leather, mini wheels, and handles that could double as luggage cart material. The rickshaw bag hybrid has the internet gasping, giggling, Googling conversion rates, but wait before you hail this as a quirky one-off. Let's talk about a pattern more familiar than your grandmother's embroidered shawl. The Great Indian Craft Appropriation Tour is on full throttle, and Louis Vuitton isn't the only passenger. Enter Dior, the brand that thought Mukesh embroidery was a cute metallic touch you could slap onto a $200,000 coat without mentioning the 12 Indian artisans who spent 34 days creating it unveiled at Paris Fashion Week. The coat shimmered in gold and ivory under the spotlights, while the credit shimmered nowhere. People were quick to point out that the Mukesh embroidery work is an ancient Lucknowi art of embedding thin metal wires, traditionally used for royal finery. The artwork was now being paraded down Paris runways, with a hefty price tag and zero acknowledgement. Then there's Prada. It turned the iconic Kolhapuri chapval into a 1.2 lakh or $1,400 runway moment. Minus the name, the nod, or even a post-credit scene for the artisans. After public backlash and a few uncomfortable Instagram stories later, Prada admitted the design was inspired by Indian craftsmanship and might include artisans in the process eventually. Let's not pretend this is new. Western fashion houses have been raiding India's cultural closet for years. Chanel's 2012 pre-fall Paris-Bombay collection, featuring sherwanis and jodhpurs, served with champagne and confusion. The sari collection by Hermes, because clearly India needed to be told how to wear its own garment at 5-digit euro prices. Isabel Marant's plagiarized Kutch embroidery, rebranded for Coachella goers. The fashion industry in the West has a long-standing habit of treating Indian design elements like a pick and mix buffet. Take a little embroidery here, a silhouette there, stir in some exotic storytelling, and voila, runway ready. The credit? Usually given to quote-unquote visionary designers and innovative creative directors, while the artisans who preserve these crafts across the generations are tucked away. It's not that India minds being a muse, it minds being uninvited from its own tribute. So the next time you see a LV autorickshaw, a Mukesh coat, or a Prada touring sandal, remember, somewhere India, a real autorickshaw is dodging potholes, a Mukesh artisan is threading history into fabrics, and a Kolhapuri cobbler is stitching leather by hand, without runway lighting, applause, or credits.
That's going to do it for us today. On behalf of our entire team, both here and abroad, we thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow.